Live. Back. We're working on Beluna again. Pull her up proper. There she is. Hey, so I did a recount. We're actually at 106, not 107. So forgot to down tick once somewhere while cutting a card. So that's good. We only need 46 more cuts and we'll be good to go. So we're trying to keep as many of the adventures that we still have on the list as we can. Right now she's got nearly, I think it was nearly 30 or right around 30, so she's at about half of her spells are specifically cards with an adventure on them, which makes about a third of her deck hits for her own adventure, and then get a discount on the permanent side of them. Although at this point, the permanents are actually all creatures except for two of them. We wound up cutting the blue virtue, since we have almost no comes into play abilities left, and I wound up cutting like the 5 cards that still had them and bringing in Torpor Orb instead. So now we have that going on. So the really hard part is going to be figuring out, like, we need 46. So 46 of these spells kind of have to go. That is an awful lot. That's not going to leave us a whole lot of wiggle room. How many cards do I have that aren't adventures, actually? Like, how much room do I have if I don't cut another adventure? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 3, 4, 25, 26, 27, 8, 29, 30, 32, 34, okay, 35, 6, 37, 38, 39, 40, 1, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 7, 48, 9, 50, 1, 52, 53, 4, 55, 56, 7, 8, 9, 60, 61, 2, 3, 64, 65, 6, 67, 68, 9, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74. We have 74 cards that aren't themselves adventures. So 74 minus 46 is 28. I get to keep 28 of the non-creature spells if I want this to work out. Or the non-adventure spells, rather, if I want this to work out. That's still a fair amount of wiggle room. Alright. at least for right now. Alright, I had Lightning Greaves and, what's its name? Swiftfoot Boots on the list because most of our creatures are not super amazing, so letting them, like, get down and start attacking immediately seemed kind of good, but maybe we just take advantage of the fact that they are also spells instead to get our value out of each one. I have to cut like one or two of the ramp spells also. And maybe we don't need Glenalendra. She's not actually on theme, and we have other counter spells. She's just one of those generically powerful cards that makes it into a lot of my blue commander decks. But we have Counterspell and Mana Drain and Fierce Guardianship, so I think we're okay in that regard. Wonder if we cut into the core and then we just have the Embrest Shieldbreaker and Force of Vigor. I was about to say Force of Nature, but that name was already claimed long ago. A completely different Magic card. Eh, maybe. Maybe hold on. We do have Beast Within and Karn Liberated, though, so we have other ways to deal with problematic artifacts. Yeah, okay. I'm willing to cut it at this point. Maybe Epic Experiment. Maybe Electromancer. Rock Giant. We definitely want the Innkeeper and the Lucky Clover, because we need effects like that. They're very on theme. Asari is fine. He definitely works with the theme of the deck, but don't know that he's actually good enough for it. Like, we're always going to be casting spells from exile is the thing, but at the end of the day, he's a 4/4 on the ground, so he's basically going to be a 5 mana 5/5 by the time we're attacking with him. It may be a 6/6. That's not amazing. He will keep growing, but yeah, I can see cutting him. He does work with the deck, and he does steal cards from the opponents, but he's not actually necessary for what we're trying to do. I'd rather have cards that work. Like, he benefits from all of the adventures. I think I'm a little more inclined for cards that um, benefit me casting adventures as opposed to, like, it just works on him. Like, Balmor will pump my entire team every time I cast an instant or sorcery, which I have a much higher volume of because of the adventure cards. But Nasari only cares when I cast the other end of them, and then all he's doing is getting a 1/1 counter for himself. Definitely want to keep the Chancellor. Extraordinary Journey lets us draw lots of extra cards potentially. It lets us draw an extra card per turn a lot of the time. Like per an extra card per turn cycle, and then if opponents do any shenanigans, we get to draw off of those as well, or if we exiled any of their stuff. Pixie, yep, the Beanstalk, Fauna Shaman. Valran the Sky Summoner. Warclaw. Do like Allura, since we can actually get our adventure creatures back while dealing damage to the opponent. Candlekeep Inspiration just has so much potential as an overrun. It doesn't give trample, though, is the biggest problem. But if we have the go wide tokens from whenever I cast a non-creature spell, from all the things that we have that care about that, then it's pretty easy for us to actually kill the entire table with that card. Um, I think Faldorn is closest to getting cut out of the cards that care. Like, we get a 2/2 Wolf off of playing cards from Exile, as opposed to getting, like, a 2/2 Drake for casting an instant or sorcery, or, like, a Shark based on the power, or with power and toughness based on the casting cost, or the ground construct from Metallurgic Summons. Lozon deals too much damage. Cast a Dragon or Adventure. The only downside to him is that they decided he was too powerful in whatchamacallit, Baldur's Gate Limited, and they had to make him not be able to hit commanders because of that, and that's kind of a big um blind spot for him, not being able to hit the opponent's utility commanders, or if the spell is big enough, they're like giant rumbly commanders. So we probably don't need Riku. We have enough other things that are copying my stuff. And I cut, so Riku can go. I think I skipped over what's its name? The Swiftfoot Boots. Yeah. Okay. So get rid of that one. So I have a bunch of other things that copy my stuff. Maybe we don't need the twinning staff. Like the twinning staff only it does more when I already have something, but does nothing when I don't have it. So we're only running like 3 or 4 copy abilities besides it. So we are running multiple copy abilities, so it is a relevant thing, but I don't think we need it. Veyrin copies all of the when I cast the spell, make a token type thing, so fine to keep him. The Sage of Beyond is okay. The Lost and the Damned makes a 3/3 when I play a card from anywhere other than my hand. And Baldorn makes a 2/2 when I cast from exile, or when I play a card from exile. But also has the ability to let me exile the top card of my library and play it until end of turn. I wonder if I don't need both of them, and I think I cut Baldorn if I don't need both. Um, with the enchantment will stick around, and we'll get to make new 3/3s later on after a Wrath, but when Faldorn goes and all of his wolves go with him, then we won't have another thing getting me extra bodies to help me rebuild faster. So I think we're safe to cut him. That brings me up to 8 cuts now. Those 8 cards can go. And that brings us down to 98. We are below 100. $38 more cards to come off this list, though. Now we're getting a little bit tight on what I can afford to get rid of. Yeah, we can probably cut the epic experiment. I don't know that we need Electromancer either. I don't know that we need the cost reduction on our individual spells. It does help a bit, though, if I can cast like 2 or 3 spells in the same turn and send them all on their adventures. Especially if Beluna's there to also discount the permanents that they become. So, it's tempting. He might wind up going, because I keep thinking about cutting him and then just leaving Baral in there. He's an easier to cast Electromancer with 1 less power and a little more upside. And an extra toughness. Basically, all of my non-lands nearly being adventure cards. I'm wondering if I need Precognition Field or if I can get by with just like Melik and Future Sight. Oh, we definitely. There's some very low temptation to cut a card like Mesmeric Sprite or Hypnotic Sprite, Mesmeric Glare, because the band of spells the adventure hits is so low. Like it gets rid of certain problematic cards though, like cheap removal, good utility creatures, cheap combo pieces. Like it can still hit enough stuff, and it's on theme with the deck. Really reaching for cards I can still cut from here without diminishing the deck. Because we do have to cut most of the non-adventure spells in order to not cut another adventure. I'm debating if I want to get rid of Fauna Shaman and possibly even what's its name? Survival of the Fittest. We do have kind of a toolboxy deck though, so I don't want to do that. Might be Goreclaw. Like a lot of my creatures have 4+ power, so making them 2 cheaper is not irrelevant, and they would get +1/+1 and trample when she attacks. But don't know that that's quite good enough. Like she has to attack first of all, so it's not like I play her and then attack with my other big 4 power creatures and they get the bonus. And I took away a lot of ways to give her haste, so that's not going to happen. In fact, I think we've lost all of the ways to gain haste now due to attrition of don't have room for this card. The deck does seem a little on the expensive side, though. Like, some of the adventures are expensive, and a lot of the creatures that we're running off of those adventures, we've got a bunch of 6 mana, 4 power creatures running around just in uh, Battle for Baldur's Gate alone. It feels like a lot of our stuff is a bit on the expensive side, which helps with things like Lozon, since these things are dragons. So casting a very expensive dragon actually benefits him. But I don't want to go too light on the things making these cards more cost efficient. Sage also reduces those things by 2 because we're casting them from anywhere other than my hand, in this case exile. Yeah, it's already. I was a bit more optimistic before, but starting to think that I'm gonna have trouble finding cuts. I think we can actually cut Fauna Shaman too. I will keep the $1,000 enchantment or whatever it is, $700 enchantment, and you can replace it with Fauna Shaman if you don't have it, because that's the easiest thing. That's the closest substitute. So let's do that. 36 cards. What are my worst adventures still in the deck? If I cut enough of the things that deal damage, maybe Virtue of Courage loses enough power. Double Strike is really good on a bunch of the larger creatures. Like 5/4 Menace for 5 is kind of whatever, but there's a lot of creatures in our deck with stats like that, where we just kind of shrug because the other half of it is good enough. Or the combination of the two balances out to a worthwhile card. It might be Young Blue Dragon, but we get to draw so many cards potentially off of the adventure on it, just because it's an adventure that draws me cards without making me discard the same number. Yeah, if the whatever it was, the Elemental Deer had have been like just a bit, like if it was draw 2, discard 1, I don't think I would have ever cut it. So yeah, how many other 1/1s I actually have in the deck for Lovestruck Beast? Like I know I have a few, but I don't think it's actually all that many. What's its name? The River Otter actually technically works with Elusive Otter as a 1/1 with prowess. Questing Druid is not going to work with it because it's not going to stay a 1/1 long enough. We have the Innkeeper as a 1/1. No, that is true. If we don't have enough 1/1s, we might not be able to run the Lovestruck Beast. Alright, Steve's a 1/1 if I keep him around. Oracle's a 2/2. Goblins are 2/2s. Mellow 2/4, 4/3, 1/3. Dwelling Keeper. I'm at like 2 right now. I would need to know how many 1-drop spells I have for Shark Typhoon and Metallurgic Summons, actually. I don't think I have nearly enough. Balmore's a 1/3, 6/6. 6/6 that makes 1/1, so that technically works. Although it's a 7-drop. Otter again. No. 3/2. 4. 4/2, 4/6. Oxide's a 1/2. Veyron's a 2/2. Dika's a 3/3. Yeah, maybe we don't have enough. Because I don't think most of my spells are 1-drops either. In order to get the 1/1s off of the thing, so maybe Lovestruck Beast does have to go. Alright. Yeah, I think that's actually weirdly my worst adventure is my 3-mana 5/5. Oh, I did not count Ratcatcher Trainee, did I? That also makes 1/1s. That's still only like 5 1/1s. Like, it's going to make its own, and that's fine, but really not making enough. Like, if that random 1/1 just happens to die, even if the beast doesn't, it's going to be a blocker for the rest of the game. He's going to retreat into his castle and just hide in his room and cry about how he's a giant monster now. Hey, it's a bit more progress, but still nowhere near enough right now. Hey, I need to seriously consider if I'm cutting any of these. Cast a certain type of spell that my deck cares about. Make a creature, because we have so many of them on the list, and I don't have enough room for all of them. So we're gonna need to go assess which ones are actually staying at this point. Ooh, excuse me. Click. Alright, so Metallurgic Summons is one. Dark Typhoon. Vika. Valrand. Lorzan. Peshni. Vika. And the Lost and the Damned. These are my token makers. Metallurgic. Dark Typhoon. Valrand. And Lost and Damned. Off. Don't feel like we can run all of these. Howrund is probably the weakest, only making 2/2s, regardless of the spell. Like, almost all of the time, they would be at least 2/2s, if not larger. That was one of the problems, is that we don't make a lot of 1/1s by triggering these things, so... Going to go with Howrund can go. If I'm gonna cut one more of them, I think it's Dika. The token being unblockable is kind of really good, but when I get Wrathed, I would rather have these enchantment ones sticking around to make more creatures than have a creature that died along with the rest of the creatures they were making. And I think Ovika going wide is stronger than either of these two with the bigger individual bodies, so... Alright, so we'll cut Dika and Tauren then. Her. Find Tauren, get rid of him. There's 2 more cards off the list. Alright, we're roughly halfway through, and that's the best I've been able to do so far. Alright, let's do a ramp list. See what our ramp looks like. See if we can cut like 1 or 2 cards. Soul Ring. Nature's Lore. Sakura Tribe Elder makes the list. Farseek. Joyce, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the channel. Hunting Wilds. Okay, we got Farseek, so Hunting Wilds is next. Do I count Baral and Electromancer? They're not really ramp, they're discounts, but maybe I should. They're not really ramp, though, is the issue. Technically, the Beanstalk Giant is, so we'll put him on the list down here so I remember we have him. That we're counting him towards that. This would surge. Those don't really count. Restoration does, though. Bramble Familiar is technically ramp. Does, in fact, tap for green. In fact, that's one of my favorite things about him, is that he's another 2-mana dork in Wilds of Eldraine Limited. It's 3 visits. Your name. Archaeologist. Alright. Dockside is definitely in here to be ramp. Arcane Signet. Alright. Drop down to the bottom. Ramp section. And we will start with good old Soul Ring. And so on in that manner. Okay. So we have all of 2 artifacts in Soul Ring and Arcane Signet. I think that's fine. Like, there's an argument we could cut the Arcane Signet, but that leaves us with what? We have Nature's Lore, Farseek, Steve, and 3 visits. That leaves us with 3 non-creature, like, get a land, ramp us 1 mana effects. Ooh, excuse me. Order. Alright. Can we get rid of Arcane Signet? Maybe? Wondering, though, if we don't get rid of the slightly more expensive ones, like the 4-drops. And keep all of the cheap ones instead. If we got rid of Hunting Wilds and Vastwood Surge, we can very easily get 3 lands off of Entis Restoration just with our commander, who is a 3-drop, so very easy to do that. Then the other ones are all very castable early, and the only one that's like even kind of expensive is one of our adventure creatures and one of our larger bodies. Yeah, I can see getting rid of those 2 and just having the rest of our mana come out a lot cheaper. Come on. Oh man, I cut their alternatives and now I'm cutting both of them. Why did I bother? Yeah, I think we can get rid of both. This would. Oops. Yeah. So get rid of those 2. That brings us down to 91. Oh, good. Come to an agonizing crawl, and we still have cut a third of the remaining cards. And most of them I want to have come, if not all of them, have come off the list from the non-adventure side of things. Alright, so we don't want to cut adventures, and we don't want to cut things that interact positively with adventures. So we have to cut a few more of the utility cards. Maybe we cut Counterspell. Like, I'm not a control deck. We have Mana Drain, we have Force of Will, and we have Fierce Guardianship. So maybe we just cut Counterspell. We also have Deflecting Swat. Like, we don't need all these counters. We need a few just so we have one or two in case something goes wrong, but... This isn't one of my, like, high caliber decks. This is, like, I'm trying to do a cool thing. So, let's do the cool thing type of deck. I'd rather focus on that. I don't want to cut all of the utility stuff, but we need to cut some of it to make room, so... Maybe Niv. Like, we have the Archmage Emeritus, and we have the two other cards. We actually have the card. So we have two cards that let us draw cards when we're casting things that involve adventures. One that lets us draw for the adventure spell itself, and the other one that lets us draw when we cast a creature with an adventure. So maybe we don't need all of the extra card draw, and Niv is good, but he's also very, very color intensive for this deck. Like, we want to have green first and foremost so we can cast all of our ramp spells, which means that Niv might get sidelined because of that. Like, if we have a basic forest, that's not going to help us cast Niv. So, every time we have to get one of those with something, it's going to be that much harder to cast him. And we have the Archmage Emeritus. I have a couple other things that let me draw cards. Alright, I think we do cut the Counterspell, which brings us down to 90, so we only need 30 more cuts. Alright, let's look at our card advantage now. See if there's anything we don't need. I'm going to go for, like, actual card draw as opposed to card selection for the card advantage section, so... So Niv draws us cards. Edgewall Innkeeper. Mage Emeritus. Chancellor's not the card draw one. Extraordinary Journey draws us cards. Yeah, Galvanic Giant is a card draw adventure, so... Why did I not get the options I wanted? That was weird, it's like copy here as opposed to... Oh, that's true, we have Up the Beanstalk also. see, what do we have for these adventures? Anybody draw me cards? I don't think... Oh, right, the one dragon does. I was about to say, I don't think any of them do, but the one dragon actually does draw me a card. And when I'm copying the adventures and drawing cards from casting the adventure... Didn't even notice that. That's the 2 and tap, right? Right. Alright, none of the rest of those draw me cards. Alright. My card draw. Let's pop down here. That time it wants to do it on the first click. All of text to delete now. Because I don't naturally use any of the fancy commands. Know what they are off the top of my head. Yeah, I'm wondering if we can't drop Niv and maybe even the Archmage. Also, we missed the other one. The Chancellor, not Chancellor, the Storyteller. Pixie Storyteller. Should also be down here. So... yeah, we can probably drop Niv and we can drop the Archmage too, I think. Alright, so... Niv... Archmage. That brings us to 88. Yep. We're all... okay. We're at like 50-ish minutes. And I do feel like I'm slowing down again, so I think I should probably call it here. Rather than keep pushing myself and having this take... like, not making any headway versus the amount of time spent. We did do a pretty decent job. Every time I come back to it, I feel like we start pretty strong, and then somewhere around half an hour in, it starts slowing down, but then I'll make like a little bit of a breakthrough, or I'll do a list, and that'll help us get another couple cards off of it, like a sub-list for a specific card type. So, I think that's going to do it for me for today, though, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.